What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another post-game show here on Mets Central. This is Mets Fan Reaction Game 72, where, unfortunately, the New York Mets dropped the finale of this three-game set against the Tampa Bay Rays by a final score of 9-0, where they unfortunately get swept. And look, listen, I'm not gonna beat around the bush here, right? This series was bad. The Mets played awful baseball. And listen, they lost this baseball. They lost this series against the Rays for multiple reasons, right? Obviously, the big thing when you're to look at it, right, and you're going to break it down, the pitching wasn't good. The pitching wasn't good. Apart from Clay Holmes, who pitched a solid first 5 innings of his game on Friday, and we'll get onto that decision more on the podcast that we do either tomorrow or on Tuesday. Me and Evan have to see our schedules, but that's something we're going to break down. But like I said, apart from Clay Holmes's 5 innings where he started, the Mets pitching this series was not good. It was not. Tyler McGill yesterday gave you just a terrible performance all around. And then today, Griffin Canning, a guy who has recently struggled his last couple of outings, he once again was not good at all. And that's probably being nice because listen, when the Mets signed Griffin Canning, right? Obviously, us as Mets fans, we didn't have too much of, big expectations for Griffin Canning because obviously, we talked about this, many times on the podcast and on our shows, right? Canning, like I said, we didn't have any expectations from him. Just statistically, he was one of the worst pitchers in Major League Baseball. And the Mets obviously they signed him for $4.5 million. We're like, okay, listen, let's give it a try. If it doesn't work, like what would happen with Adrian Hauser last year, fine. At least we could DFA him, move on, and then we could bring in another guy. But to many of our surprise, Griffin Canning had so far been a really good pitcher, and he had been overperforming for his standards. I think we can all agree on that because, like I said, we didn't expect what Griffin Canning gave us like the first 8 starts. We did not expect that because he put up really good numbers. He was giving you, very good depth. He was giving you, very good length in his outings and the swing and miss stuff there. And it really looked like he took the next step in his career and possibly the next turn. And you're like saying, oh, listen, maybe this guy's going to go out there next year on the open market and maybe he's going to get himself a big time deal. Maybe the Mets should consider, bringing him back. And listen, I'm not going to jump too far ahead to that, but like I said, we can all agree that Canning had been overperforming, and we can all agree that now his last couple starts at least, he's been severely disappointing. And I think there's a fair critique to be there. Because look, when you look at his last couple starts, right? Obviously, I'm not going to really count the Citi Field one against the Dodgers because again, that got affected by rain, and he wasn't great in that outing per se, but he wasn't terrible in my opinion. I still think, and I know he kind of got into trouble a little bit in that start, but I think if that game didn't get into to a rain delay and stuff, I think you maybe would have seen him prevail a little bit in that start. But anyway, let's toss that start aside, right? You get to the White Sox game again, wasn't good. Only gave you 3 innings and gave up 4 runs in those 3 innings. Obviously, wasn't good. Wasn't able to locate. Was giving up way too much hard contact, especially against that White Sox start. But listen, you say, okay, it's a bad start. Canning's been good. Bad starts happen to really good pitchers, or even pitchers that have been performing well for say. At the end of the day, you're a major league player. Sometimes you're gonna have an off day. It happens. And then you get to the Dodgers start in LA, and again, gives you 6 innings. I think he gave you. I think it was 6 shutout innings, or maybe he gave up 1 run in that start, but he pitched very well. But then we get to the National start, and again, he wasn't terrible in the National start, but he was giving up a lot of hard contact, similar to what we saw in the White Sox game. He was giving up a lot of hard contact. Location wasn't great for the most part, and was just giving up a ton of base runners. But like I mentioned before, the one difference with the White Sox start and the National start was at least Canning was able to keep you in that game, because obviously the Mets were able to come back in that game later on. But at least he was able to give you some length in terms of 5.3 innings. But again, wasn't great. And then today, where we get to this race game, and the Mets really need a win, and they need good pitching, especially off the disaster start that Tyler McGill gave you. And then Canning goes out there, and he wasn't good. I could pull up the box score for you guys now. His final pitching line. 4 1/3 innings, 4 hits, 6 runs, 5 walks, 2 strikeouts, no homers allowed, but his ERA now shoots up to a 3.80. And look, it's something that we've been talking about, and especially I talked about it on this post game here. But The big issue with Canning is his swing and miss stuff has severely decreased within his last couple starts, and that was one of his main strengths. Especially throughout the beginning of the season. Especially with the way he was really utilizing his secondary stuff with the slider and his changeup, and you really start to see, a decrease more on the fastball. He started throwing the fastball a bit more just because, he switched around, and they mentioned this before on the SNY broadcast, but they really, tweaked around that and switched around his grip on his fastball, and you start to see more life on it. You start to see more velo on it, and he was getting more swings and miss. But I think because obviously, he made adjustments, with the help of the pitching coaches and with the help of the pitching lab. But now you're starting to see opposing lineups and opposing batters make adjustments to him, and now they're figuring out different ways how to hit. And also, it doesn't help in the fact that that Canning's not really helping out himself because one, his control has really been poor as of late. I mean, you see it today, right, with the 5 walks here. Canning, especially this year, he hasn't been loading up the bases as much. He hasn't been putting guys on base as easily. In the last couple of outings, you have started to see that. And then, like I said, today with the 5 walks, he just didn't help himself. And then, like I said, again, was giving up hard contact. And then again, he wasn't great situationally either because there was many times, where, and there was one situation in the game today where he lets up a walk and then he ends up giving up a double or maybe it was a triple, I believe. And then, that run will come across the score. And then, Canning just had trouble, getting out of innings and managing this Rays lineup. And it's just, and it comes to a discussion because obviously we talked about it and we're going to, discuss even more at length. Not maybe necessarily this podcast, but, a podcast closer to the trade deadline. But again, now it brings up the thing of, okay, how many starters maybe do the Mets have to add? Because, obviously with Senga going on the IL, and thankfully it was only, a minor a minor hamstring strain. So he's going to be shut down for I think 2 weeks, they said. So he's going to be reevaluated and he's going to miss a couple starts, maybe 3, 4, but you're hoping to get Senga soon enough. And I know Manai is on his way back, and I get that people were a little concerned by the way his rehab start went in Single A Brooklyn today. I'm not too concerned. I think we all know what Sean Manai can give this baseball club. We all know he's a good pitcher. I'm not too worried about the iffy performance that he had today in Single A. I'm not too worried. I know people are going to freak out, but people just have to kind of relax. Again, Manai didn't really have a spring training. You got to let him ramp up. And again, I know it's Single A. I know he's facing a Single A lineup, but again, these guys, they've been in a groove. They've been playing for a couple months now. You got to let Manai just get into a groove. Let him get into a rhythm. Obviously, he's probably trying new stuff on the mound that he wouldn't in at an MLB level. So, like I said, we got to chill Manai. He's going to be fine. People just got to relax. But like I said, Senga, you hope to be back soon. Manai's gonna be back soon. Obviously, David Peterson has been really good lately. And then, like I said, but the other couple starting and then again, Clay Holmes has been good as well. But again, then the other couple starter spots, you don't know what you're gonna get because, like I said, Griffin Canning had been good, but now with his recent drop off, he hasn't really been performing well. And again, is his rotation spot now in jeopardy? And again, like with Montas coming back, you have a couple of young guys in the system, guys like McLean, Sproat. I know Jonah Tong's probably not going to come up, but again, he's another option. Even though, like I said, I don't think he's going to come up. But and then again with the major question of do the Mets bring in a starting pitcher one, for which they probably will, but how many are they going to bring in? Because again, Tyler McGill hasn't been good either. Sorry guys, it's a little bit late, but yeah. So you're kind of looking at this rotation now, and you're saying, okay, Senga 1, Manaya 2, Clay Holmes 3, David Peterson 4. Now, and then with Senga back, you're going to be running a 6-man. You're going to be running a 6-man rotation. So it's like, who do those final 2 spots go to? And right now, I don't think you can give it to McGill. You can't, because he's been terrible. And one, I think for when guys start to come back healthy, he should be demoted down to AAA. Griffin Canning, I listen, for me, I don't want to overreact too much to Canning, but like I said, there's definitely been regression. I think the original plan for Canning was for when guys get healthy, he was going to get moved back for the bullpen. And I know that's something that we've talked about. That's something that we talked about on the podcast. And I still think that's the best. the best spot for Griffin Canning, because if you look at his tool set, his types of pitches, the fact that he only mainly throws 3 pitches and he could give you some sort of length, I think Canning's best option for him, for the team later on in the season. I do think it's going to be in the bullpen as a long man option. So, and then again, like I said, McGill, no. Canning, probably a long man option, and then Montas, again, like I said, I don't want to freak out too much into rehab starts, but the fact that Montas has looked that bad in he's had 4, 3, 5 starts in rehab, and he hasn't looked good, especially his last start. I mean, he pitched, I think, an inning and 2/3, and he gave up 8 runs, 7 hits, couple home runs. So, yeah, I mean, listen, there's going to be talks, and starters are going to have to be addressed at the deadline. I wonder how many the Mets do get. I know definitely for certain they'll get one, but maybe do they target a second one? Because listen, I know that you also don't want to necessarily overstack, right? And I get the old cliche is, you can never have enough. You can never have enough arms in baseball, right? But also with the fact that when you look at this team and they're most likely going to make the playoffs, and again, usually when you get the playoff time, you're only running a 4-man rotation, and the other guys that you have as starters, they usually get moved into the bullpen. So again, you don't want to overstack on guys. So like I said, it's going to be interesting to see who they get. But and listen, I get, like I said, it was a terrible series, right? It was a terrible game. But I think we can all talk about this series and we can all break it down without being irrational. Again, was it a bad series? Yes. Are the Mets a bad team? No, they are not a bad team. Listen, ups and downs in seasons happen. It happens. It's 162 games. It was bound to happen. Listen, right now the only team that hasn't been swept so far is the Cincinnati Reds. And listen, are the Mets worse than the Cincinnati Reds? No. We can all agree that the Mets are better than the Cincinnati Reds. So the fact that now that the Mets have been swept doesn't make it a bad team. No. Does it suck that it happened? Yes. But listen, with this series specifically, and again, you can have rightful concerns without saying that the team is bad. Because listen, and with the fact that that there's there's clearly holes in this team. But listen, for me, and I was thinking about this earlier to myself, I'd rather the holes show up now prior to the trade deadline than this team play really well right now. It doesn't look like they have any holes. And then when the trade deadline passes and this team doesn't make enough moves, you say, "Oh man, now that the team's struggling, I wish we were able to realize that these things were holes, and we could have maybe jumped and made a trade before the trade deadline happened. But now that the trade deadline has passed, oh well, we're screwed." So again, just because you have holes, it's a bad thing. But like I said, I rather see and evaluate the holes before the trade deadline happens, and then don't miss out on any improvements at the trade deadline, than pass the trade deadline and say, "Oh well, now we're screwed because we can't make any more trades." So listen, I get it's frustrating. Don't get me wrong, I'm frustrated too. I don't like seeing the Mets get swept and lose 9-0. But I think we can all be rational, chill down, and say, listen, this team is going to make moves at the trade deadline. We all trust in David Stearns. We all trust that he's going to find the right pieces, and we all think relatively that this team will be fine. They're going to be fine, guys. I'm not saying that they're going to win the World Series. Obviously, yes, that is the goal. But this team is not a bad team. They're going to figure it out. Stearns will make the right additions, and we will go from there. And then it's down to the players whether they're good enough to win a World Series. So I think we can all just relax. Like I said, we can all agree that this team has holes. We can all agree that this team needs to make major improvements and this team needs to fix stuff. But like I said, it's only June. It's only June 15th. Trade deadline is still a month and a half away. So there's still time to make the right moves and to make the right additions in order for this team to go forward, take the next step, and hopefully win a World Series like we all think that they can do. And listen, I get that. And listen, again, I get that, when you look at the roster right now, there are a lot of holes. Obviously, they're going to need to add 2 relievers and we'll talk about that more in the podcast. Because again, Ryan Stanek today was not good at all. He wasn't. And listen, really, when you look at this bullpen as of right now, there's really only three main guys that you can fully trust right now. That's Edwin Diaz, that's Reed Garrett, and that's Huascar Brosban. Max Kranick has not looked great. Again, he wasn't good today. Um, I know they had Ty Adcock today. He looked decent, but again, is Ty Adcock a long term solution? I don't think so. Again, Stanek, like I said, was not good, and I mean, listen, for me, Stanek has not been performing well for these last couple months, and again, like he had that rough outing in Colorado where he got bailed out by the defense. He was terrible in the finale against the Nationals, where the Mets just barely escaped thanks to Diaz. Thanks to Diaz shutting the door, and then today, like you go out there to the ninth inning, and what at that point they were down 6-0, and then Stanek allows base hit out, base hit, and then home run to put the Rays up 9-0. It's like, I don't know. Listen, again, I don't want to be overreactionary, but Stanek might be nearing DFA territory. He's been that bad. He has been that bad. I don't know. But again, like I said, Kranick hasn't been great. Jose Castillo, I think for me, he's a short-term lefty. Obviously, the Mets are going to get Brooks Raley back. He's going to be starting his rehab assignment pretty soon. So we'll see what they have what they have in Brooks Raley. We'll see how much of the same pitcher he is. Before since he's coming back from the Tommy John surgery. I think that they're gonna have to add another lefty. They're gonna have to add another righty. We'll obviously see because Nunez is still down there in AAA. So I wonder what's their plan with him. Obviously, they're trying to be real careful with him, and which I do agree that you should be careful with Denno Nunez because you don't want to risk injury again. Again, that was a big piece of the Mets bullpen last year, and it sucked not having him in the playoffs. So I'm fine with being extra cautionary with Denno Nunez and really working him into full-time shape and for him to be fully comfortable. Because again, you don't want to see him up here and like what we saw, when he first came up here, and he had major control issues. He was walking guys, left and right. You don't want that. You don't want that. But again, you get to the offense, you get to the fact that the bottom of the lineup hasn't been good. I mean, Brett Beatty, I know he hit the home run yesterday, but he's really taken a step back since his hot streak of a week ago or 2 weeks ago. Luisano Acuna has not shown much in like about a month and a half. Ronnie Mauricio, I'm not too worried about Ronnie Mauricio. I still think he needs more seasoning in AAA. So, we'll see what happens with there. Obviously, with the catcher tandem, Alvarez, again, severely struggling. Luis Torrens is a backup catcher at the end of the day, so I'm not going to get too much on him, even though, he hasn't really been great. He wasn't really great this series. Again, with the center fielding option, there is going to be a trade there. I know Jarren Duran has been a target so far. I know Jeff Passan also mentioned Cedric Mullins with the Baltimore Orioles struggling, and I know I see you guys are asking in the comments right now about the Rafael Devers trade. I was shocked by that too. I did not expect that, especially today, especially since the Red Sox swept the Yankees. You didn't think a Devers trade was coming, and then all of a sudden out of the blue, Rafael Devers is traded to the freaking San Francisco Giants for basically nothing. I'll get to your guys' comments, as soon as I get done rambling. But yeah, I mean, listen, like I said, teams got holes. There's still a way to go to the trade deadline, and I fully trust that Stearns will address the is fully going to address the problems. But I mean, yeah, guys. I mean, listen, I'm not gonna get too much into a full game recap because again, there's not much to talk about. Like again, and you could really sum it up easily. Offense was really nowhere to be seen. I mean, the Mets had a bases loaded opportunity earlier in the game. I believe it was the third or fourth inning, and Pete Alonso struck out to bring in nobody. And then, yeah, I mean, they had bases loaded later in the game, but the game was already fully decided. So, and again, Canning wasn't good. And then whoever came out of the bullpen, basically just did their best not to, put the Mets behind anymore. I mean, again, Kranick wasn't great. Ty Adcock I thought was solid. Like I said, Stanek again was terrible. And then Jared Young pitched, and he came in and threw a couple pitches. And listen, he's got a 0 ERA right now, so I guess congratulations to Jared Young in there. But I mean, yeah, guys, and again, apology for the live stream being a little late. I was a bit busy, so I didn't have time earlier in the day to do it after the game. I have to do stuff, so. But at least I'm getting the live stream out to you guys now. And then, of course, as we always say, make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe on the channel as always. Greatly appreciate you guys' support. We greatly appreciate you guys' support on the channel. We want to keep feeding you guys content. Also, make sure to hit the post notification bell to let you guys know anytime we upload a video or go live on the channel. But I mean, yeah, other than that, like I said, there's not much to talk about with this game. and with the series in general. I mean, really, really, and we'll get to more on this on the podcast when we do it. But really, this series went downhill when the decision, to pull Clay Holmes in the after the fifth inning and bring in Paul Blackburn as a longman, which you didn't need to do. But like I said, we'll jump into more of that on the podcast when we do it. But yeah, guys, before I get out of here, I'm just gonna go through your guys' comments, see what you guys have to say. Two Cats, what is going on? Absolutely pathetic game in series. Tampa Bay embarrassed the ever loving heck out of them. Wake up for Tuesday. Yeah, yeah. I mean, listen, I fully agree. Was not a good series. Was not a good game, and yeah, especially with the schedule, really getting difficult here. We, obviously a 3-game set in Atlanta now, 3-game set in Philly, and then 4-game set against the Braves at Citi Field. It's gonna be a tough week and a half, and the Mets really just listen. Like I said, you got to throw the series out the window. You basically burn the tape, as the old cliche. You have the off day tomorrow, reset, and look to go into Atlanta and try to take 2 out of 3. I'm not asking you to sweep because, again, Paul Blackburn's pitching the Wednesday game, and I really don't have much faith in Paul Blackburn in that game, especially against that lineup. But listen, you're going to have Peterson on Tuesday, and you're going to have Clay Holmes on Thursday. Got to win those 2 games. Got to win those 2 games. Two Cats again. I don't care. Atlanta still has great players. They suck this year, and they have to win that series. This next stretch against the Phillies and Braves is crucial to the season. Listen, 100% agree. 100% agree. These are division rivals. I know the Braves haven't been good, but still, it's a division. It's a division game. Mets Braves, classic rivalry. They're gonna look, even though, like I said, even though they've been struggling, they're gonna look to make it difficult for the Mets. So it's gonna be a tough series, but you know what? You got to go out there. And like I said, you got to win 2 out of 3. And then, of course, with the Phillies, that's a team that, the Mets are battling for the NL East crown this year. That's going to be a difficult series, especially, in Citizens Bank Park, which is a notorious hitters-friendly park. So just got to see what happens. Ray, what is going on? Got to turn the page. Swept by a good team who scores runs in bunches. Yep, absolutely. Like I said, you can acknowledge bad series, but at the end of the day, throw the series out. Say, not necessarily ignore everything, obviously, because this team has to work on certain things, but just say, listen, it is what it is. We got swept. We have to play better. Move on. Two Cats, and on the side note, crazy Rafael Devers trade. American League somehow even gets worse. Bet you somehow in a rebuilding year the Astros are going to make it to the World Series again. AL is pathetic. I mean, yeah, the AL is not good. And again, I'm not too sure entirely what the Red Sox plan is. Because now, listen, obviously, they signed Bregman in the offseason, right? And reportedly, there was, friction between Rafael Devers and the Braves front office, particularly because, one, Bregman's playing third base, and that's Devers' position, and two, they didn't really, formally communicate with him, and then, they obviously asked him to be at DH, and then, they asked him to be a first baseman. But I mean, with Bregman signed to that 3-year deal, and obviously he has an opt out after the first year, and he's been really good. So if Bregman opts out, and then the Red Sox don't want to pay Bregman in the offseason, it's like, what's your guys' plan here? Because listen, they still have Jarren Duran, right? And obviously he's been asking. He's probably going to get traded, hopefully to the Mets. We'll discuss that more as the trade deadline gets closer. But again, and then they trade for Crochet in the offseason. They sign up to a long-term deal, and it's like, I don't know what the plan is up in there in Boston. Listen, that's not really my priority. I'm not a Red Sox fan, so really I couldn't care any less. But it's really confusing to see what they're going on, and the fact, I mean, again, like you get into that trade, right? I mean, they got back nothing in that trade. I mean, they got back nothing. I know they mostly got back pitchers, but I mean, the pitchers that they got, like, they haven't been great this year. I mean, let me just pull up the trade, but I mean, the 2 main headlines they got was Jordan Hicks and then Kyle Harrison, and then Kyle Harrison they ended up sending down to AAA. So again, I mean, you look at the 2 trades that this team's made in terms of the Devers trade and the Mookie Betts trade. I mean, they got back nothing in those trades. It's just really confusing what's going up there in Boston. Like I said, it's not my problem, but that's rough over there. I'm sure the fan base is not happy whatsoever. Let's see. Ray again. I'm bothered that we just start to create distance, and now we can be in second place in a week. I mean, listen. I said this before going into the season. obviously I didn't predict that the Braves were going to be as bad as they were. I thought, the NL East would be a 3-horse race between the Mets, Phillies, and Braves. But I always said for me, and this is more so between now, the Mets and the Phillies, because even though the Braves have started to get healthy, obviously Acuna is back and he's been really good. I don't know if they're going to fully catch up to the point where they're in the division race, but I fully expect that the Mets and Phillies are going to go down to the wire for the NL East. I don't think any team is just going to majorly pull ahead and create major distance between themselves, because listen, both these teams are very good. They both have a lot of talent. And I think, especially, I'm sure the Phillies are going to make trades at the trade deadline because, their window is closing. The Mets are obviously going to look to make trades at the deadline because they need to make improvements. They have a couple holes on the roster. So it's going to be a close race between them and the Phillies for the NL East crown until the very end. So, but listen, we got to see what happens. Obviously, the Mets just have to take care of business, take care of business now, against the Braves, against the Phillies, and against the Braves again. So we'll see what happens. 12 left on base. I mean, yeah, again, that's not good. The offense wasn't good this series, and again, we'll get into that more. But yeah, I mean, but listen, I still blame more Mendoza and the fact his whole bullpen decision for the first loss of the series. But you can also be fair in saying that the offense also played a major role in them losing that first game, because again, I think they went 2 for 14 with runners scored, or 2 for 16 with runners scoring position. So again, gotta be better. But again, that goes back to, listen, I still believe in the top guys of this lineup. Obviously, Lindor, Soto, Pete, Nimmo, McNeil to a certain extent. I believe in those guys, but the bottom of the lineup, it's clear that they need reinforcements, and we'll see. We're going to see what happens at the trade deadline. We're going to see what guys Stearns targets. So we'll see. Rays are a good team. Let's go Mets. Yeah, listen, they are a good team, but the Mets also played like ass in the series, and I think we can fully acknowledge that. Hitters are just waiting Canning out. I mean, yeah, listen, his location hasn't been great. Like I said, the swing and miss stuff hasn't been there. And, when those two main factors are off, you're going to be a sitting duck. And right now, like I said, hitters are making the adjustments to Canning, and, the adjustments that he's made to his repertoire and his pitching style. Now, listen, Canning is going to have to readjust back. So we'll see, if there's any adjustments made. We'll see, if Canning changes anything. But like I said, I think for now he'll stay in the rotation, and I think the long-term solution for Canning is still moving him to the bullpen and being a long man guy. And listen, I'd rather Canning be the long man than McGill or Blackburn. So, but we'll see what happens. Two Cats, Rays are a nice, solid, low payroll team, but how they shredded the Mets to pieces was yeah. I fully agree. MJ, thoughts on the Devers trade? I basically summed it up a little bit of time ago, but yeah, crazy trade. Did not expect it. I mean, yeah, and then going back to, I forgot, yeah, two Cats points in the AL is pathetic. I mean, the AL is not a great league. I mean, pretty much now the only threat to the Yankees in the AL East. I mean, I'm not even sure they have a direct threat. I mean, because to be honest, like look at the standings right now. I mean, yeah, the Rays are there, but the Yankees, in my opinion, are still a better team. The Blue Jays, I don't think they're that great of a team. Obviously, the Red Sox just lost a big piece in Rafael Devers. Again, there is the rumors of Jarren Duran being traded, and then the Orioles are just not good. And I mean, when you look at the rest of the AL, I mean, the Tigers are up there; they're a very good team. But the rest of the AL Central, I mean, the Twins have been struggling. The Guardians are meh. The Royals don't have a great lineup, and then the White Sox are the White Sox. And then when you look at the AL West, the A's haven't been good. The Angels are not good. The Rangers, I mean, the great pitching staff that the Rangers have, they just can't hit. And then the Mariners are, similar to the Rangers, great pitching staff, but can't hit. And then the Astros are a solid team. So I mean, really, for me, there's three main teams that are going to come out of the American League to represent the American League in the World Series. And right now, for me, it's the Yankees, the Tigers, and the Astros. The rest, I'm not sure that they could put together a run. But again, there's still time for the trade deadline. So maybe a team that's maybe the Twins, maybe they pull out a random trade. Maybe the Mariners pull out a trade for a big bat, and that sparks their lineup. I don't know. We'll see. As the Yankees fans, I needed you guys to win. Yeah, sorry, MJ. Sorry that we let you down. McGill cannot be part of the rotation moving forward. Agreed. I personally think it's time for the Mets to give up on McGill. I think we've just seen it for way too long. Listen, if this was a 1-year thing with him or a 2-year thing with him, where he kind of had consistency struggles, I think you could maybe put it to the side and say, okay, he's a young guy. There's going to be consistency in his development. We just have to wait and see. But it's been 5 years with McGill. Like eventually, like you have to say enough is enough. And I know he shows good stuff in March and April. But I mean, once the calendar just flips to May, I mean, the guy just can't pitch. And again, like again, he has good stuff, but it's just the guy's mentally weak. I mean, you see it every time he gives up, a little base hit blooper, or he ends up walking a guy, he just ends up collapsing, and he can't stop the collapse. And then he just gives up run after run after run. We saw it yesterday. I don't know. I for me, like I said, I think time's up on McGill, and I'd be interested to see, maybe if and I know one of you guys mentioned it in a post game show before, but maybe the Mets look to trade McGill in a trade package for a big bat or a big time starting pitcher. We'll see what happens. Ray Dodgers got swept by the Angels and Phillies by the Pirates. It happens. Like I said, it's a long season. There's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be ebbs and flows. It sucks that the Mets get swept, but look, like I said, ups and downs. You just have to move past it. That trade is nuts. Yes, Max, what is going on? Absolutely agree. I'm shocked that, yeah, me too. Max, again, I wish the Mets did the Devers trade. That was cheap for San Francisco. The Mets could have give up more. Yeah, but I mean, because there was a message sent to me in one of the group chats, and it was saying, and Buster only reported this during the Giants Dodgers game that's going on right now, and he said the Red Sox did not shop Devers, citing a conversation with another team's executive. So maybe it was one of those things similarly like with the Luka Doncic trade. And again, I know it's different leagues, but maybe the Red Sox just went straight up to the Giants and said, "Listen, do you want to make a deal for him?" And they just didn't communicate with any other team. I mean, in my opinion, I think that would be dumb considering that you want to get the best package back for a guy like Rafael Devers, but I'm not sure. And listen, I agree that it would be nice to get to get a bat like Devers, a Devers' bat in the lineup. But again, concerning because we've also heard that Devers wants to play the field, but in that case, for me, like, where's the spot? Because again, okay, you can play him at third base, right? But again, David Stearns values defense. Rafael Devers does not have a good glove at third base. You could move to first base, but then again, you have Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso doesn't want to move off first base, and then again, you could DH, but I know he's performing right now, but I don't think that contract is going to age well too particularly. And then again, if the Mets then re-sign Pete Alonso this offseason, again, you would have a guy in Devers who's DHing. Pete Alonso is eventually as he ages, he's going to probably move over to DH. And then you have the talk about Soto. And I know Soto's still 26, so he's not going to move off right field for right now. But eventually, Soto's going to probably move to DH. So, and listen, I know it's win now, but I don't think Stearns is going to make that trade regardless. And again, like I said, with the Buster only with the tweet and what Buster only reported, it seems like the Red Sox just weren't shopping him. So like I said, maybe they just went directly to the Giants and said, "Listen, do you want to make a deal for him?" I don't know. Two cats. Dodgers had many terrible losses this season, but they still feel pretty good. Yeah, and listen, I listen. You could be honest and you could be rational and say, listen, it was a bad loss, bad series, but again, this team is still good, and again, they're going to make adjustments. They're going to make trades at the deadline that bolster them into a team that can be better and really contend for a World Series. It was a blockbuster. Yup. As a Yankees fan, I'm happy that we don't need to face him anymore. More and Rekka said, yeah. Rafael Devers definitely owned Garrett Cole a bunch of times. So for you guys, yeah, definitely a great bat to get out of the ALS and even out of the American League, because now he's in the National League, so he's not really going to bother you. I'm not sure if you guys have played the Giants yet, so, but yeah, we'll see. Right, the Mets will be fine although they piss me off. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Ray's creeping up though, a little nervous about that. I mean, yeah, I still think you guys are going to win the division though. I still think that's your guys' division to lose. That's a guy that I would love the Mets to get, and Evan's been a big proponent to get Brandon Lowe too. He's a very good bat, and solid glove as well. I would love a guy like Brandon Lowe in the Mets. Season really starts Tuesday. Yup. Red Sox are trading Duran to right or moving Duran. Oh, they're trading him to right. I mean, listen, that's the rumors at least going on. I forgot who said it, but there are rumors that the Mets have checked in on Jarren Duran. And again, the Mets need another outfielder spot. I know Duran isn't primarily a center fielder; he's more of a left fielder, but he did play some center field last year. And like I said, the Mets need a center fielder because right now, right now, when you look at it and you break it down on the roster, I mean, the outfield options right now are Nimmo on left, Soto right, and then right now Tyrone Taylor is in center field, and then the backup option is Jeff McNeil, and then obviously we heard yesterday that Jose Siri has had a setback, so he's gonna be out a little longer. So the Mets need depth in the outfield, and again, you're not gonna move Nimmo over to center field because he's looking very good on left. You're obviously not moving Soto over to right because again, right field is his spot, and again, he's not good enough defensively to play center field. And Tyrone Taylor, even though we like Tyrone Taylor and he's been a very good piece for this Mets team, ideally Tyrone Taylor is a fourth outfielder. So the Mets need a center fielder, and Duran, again, isn't primarily a center fielder, but we know he can play there, and I like his bat. So I think that would be the move to go get Jarren Duran and put him in center field. Red Sox are going to give up their players and slot us on it for the future. Why not? I don't blame them one bit. And you do get 2 solid starts in your rotation. We'll get. So, I mean, they can have Tyler McGill. they can have Tyler McGill if they want him. It's probably going to have to be a lot more. But hey, if you want Tyler McGill, he's got potential. He's got the stuff. Don't forget they have Anthony Campbell and Matt. Yeah, no, listen. They have a good farm system as well, but it's just it's very weird that you have all these big time contracts locked up, and then and then you just go off the sell like that. I mean, especially when they're 37 and 36. I mean they swept the Yankees and they're in the playoff spot. So I don't know. We'll see what their strategy is. Harrison is an AA. I know it's early to talk about trades, but I would like to see us make a move for Chapman if they are selling. I mean, listen, the Mets need a lefty. They definitely do need another lefty because I talked about this. I think Luis Castillo has been okay for this team, but again, I think he's more of a placeholder. And then again, Brooks Raley, he's coming back off of Tommy John surgery, so we don't exactly know what he's going to give this team. So the Mets are definitely going to need another lefty. So Chapman would be definitely an interesting addition. I know he's had his playoff meltdowns before, but I mean, listen, the guy's won 2 World Series. I mean, won a World Series with the Cubs in 2016, and then won a World Series with the Rangers in 2023. So we'll see what the asking price is. Listen, maybe the Mets are able to pull off a move where they get both Jarren Duran and Aroldis Chapman in the same package. We'll see. Who has the outfielder they got? Not sure. I think Duran is going to San Diego. Been a rumor for months. He's going there. We'll see. We'll see. What do you think the Red Sox will get for Duran? I mean, probably a pitcher. I mean, if this is like a package for a reliever or, more specifically just for Duran, they'll probably ask for a pitcher. They'll probably ask for a youngish, outfield, infield prospect. So I wonder to see, who'd be on the move at that point. I know Luis Acuna could play center field, but again, he's more primarily of an infielder. Jet Williams could play center field, but again, primarily more of an infielder. I'm not sure what the Mets give up for Jarren Duran. I'm not too sure. MJ probably wants Soto, Alonso on the door. We need Duran badly. I can see the Mets trading McGill and other assets for a big bet that will help them a ton. Yeah, McGill's expendable for me. So, and again, I think his time has ran out over here. Listen, if he goes to another organization, he figures it out, cool, but it's not going to work here. Now, what's Devers under? Yeah, no, he's under contract for what, 6 more years, 5 more years? But he's making big money, so. Don't be upset you didn't get Devers, dude. Complains up a storm. No need. Yeah, I don't think Devers was a realistic option either. I don't think Stearns was making a thing. We played Giants beginning of the year. We're not playing them again this season. Okay. And then MJ, all right, Matt. Good stream, brothers. Nice talking ball. See you next stream. Yep, you too. Max, the Mets have a lot of players to make a splash. The young guys rotating the infield and the farm system is the best it's been in years. Yeah. Now listen, the farm system has definitely, been improved upon since, the Brody Van Wagenen days and, the Sandy Alderson days and all that stuff. The Mets actually have solid talent, especially pitching wise. I know maybe position player wise, it's not like, top end talent, but they do have some guys that would probably interest some teams. Hopefully Rangers can make moves like this. Honestly, I think they can be a team to take down the Panthers next year with some more changes to the lineup and equal. I'm not sure with the Rangers, to be honest. Two Cats. I mean, uh, I'm not too hopeful with the Rangers. I'm not too hopeful, but we'll see. We'll see. The draft is what? It's in 2 weeks, so we'll see. And then free agency opens up, so we'll see. I don't really understand what we're gonna do with that cap. Yeah, me either. Me either. Stearns wanted Chapman when he first came to the organization. Chapman, Reed Diaz. I mean, looks solid. Looks solid. Same here. MJ, I expect the Rangers. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, Vientos could play first base, right? Maybe he would be. Yeah, and Evans talked about he's talked about also. If you're gonna make a trade for Jarren Duran, and which I do agree, because I think at this point, especially if Mauricio is gonna end up playing more and taking the next step, I think eventually what's it called? Vientos he might be phased out, especially because he'll come back, he'll get reps at DH, but if he still doesn't look good at DH, I think the Mets will and Stearns will look to trade him. Two Cats, I don't know, bro, gonna take much. Trade Mika for Duran. I mean, I'm all for that. I am all for that 100%. Sign me up right now. Duran can play top 6 minutes, right? Yeah. Jarren Duran will be playing. He'll be playing right wing next to JT Miller. So, yeah. But yeah. Two Cats, have a peace, man. Have a great stream. Yep, thank you. But yeah, guys. I mean, pretty much that's gonna wrap it up for me. We're obviously gonna discuss this series more in length in the post game in the podcast. Then we'll also preview the upcoming series against the Braves. I don't know when when we're going to do the podcast yet. Might be tomorrow, might be Tuesday. We'll see. I got to talk with Evan about that. But yeah, I mean, as always, guys, make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe as always. Greatly appreciate you guys' support, and also make sure you guys hit the notification bell as well. Let you guys know anytime we upload a video or go live on the channel. But yeah, that's gonna be it for me, guys. MJ, thank you again. Great stream. Ranger stream soon. Don't know about that yet. Obviously, if another trade happens, we'll definitely go live. Obviously, we're going to be live not this coming Friday, but the next Friday for the NHL draft, and then of course we'll have the big live stream for NHL free agency when that opens up on July 1st. So, but yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. Obviously, look out for Evan on Twitter, because he's always posting when he's going to go live. So make sure you're up to date on that. So, but yeah, anyway, guys, that's going to be it for me. See you guys on the podcast, and yeah, peace. Let's go Mets.